We're handing over in our 45% gift of the plant to the power, water and waste providers.
That's what this is all
Auckland
about.
City, if you are successful in winning your mayoralship.
Oh, well, look.
and you can make an influence and induce some common sense into the running of Auckland City.
One thing I'll just add to Warwick there, I was asked to run for Mayor of Auckland earlier this year, a few months back, and I have not a political interest in my past to desire to go for Mayor. What I have done is I've looked at what's going on out there and I see problems, and from that I come up with solutions. One of the solutions just crossed my path here with Mr. Davies. And what he's shown me here, I'm saying this is an answer to Auckland's power. It brings in more money to the city than the ports do by threefold. That we've got answers to the ports themselves. We've got answers to the fast rail down, the heavy rail that they're putting in Auckland to the airport, and it's costing 5 times more than it should do. I've got answers to how to alleviate that problem, but out of all of the stuff that's going on and a few more pockets of things that I've got solutions for, this thing here blows me away because I've been involved in power generation before with New Zealand Electricity back in the early 80s actually, and around about that time. What I did understand was the technology in a boilers and generation. So at that knowledge I had back then and other things that I've done with my electrical trade is talk to Warwick when I was introduced to him a short while ago about the technology and what he's got, and I'm going, my God, this is great for Auckland. And see this here, this is really simple. To put waste into something, waste is a fuel, it's like coal, it's like gas, it's like oil. It's hydro even, but it's a different form. Hydro is free, it's water running down the hill. But these other forms of power going in to be converted into products at the other end, power out and water out and byproducts out, has not been done before. Because we have this at our fingertips, it's a no-brainer, it's common sense that this should be implemented not just in Auckland, maybe 2 in the Auckland region, because the amount of rubbish that we've got will fire this plant up to produce these products and this money at the other end of it. For Auckland City, it makes more money than anything else we've got.
And New Zealand needs 4 and could use 5.
Could use 5.
If it productively incorporates our shipping technology to make sure that the wood waste and bark that's currently being landfilled in many places and is a huge form of pollution.
It makes black water, is that right?
Yeah, the Blackwater River.
Who else has this knowledge?
There's a few people
Okay.
that have tagged along with me for all this period. John Gardner being one of them with a master's degree in engineering, and the only pre-stress yard north of Whangarei.
The reason I'm excited about this is because having come to know Warwick, I've got a real passion for the guy. He's a really good guy. He has gut feel. He has a real reason of why he wants this plant to go ahead. Now, he's appreciating. He's 70. How old are you now?
He's 78 years old.
78.
He's 79, but I don't tell too many people that.
Oh, you haven't told us soul, so I'll keep it to ourselves, okay?
But I have a son that's worked for me for 6 years in Britain and Australia. We've got permits for our technology.
Tell me about that.
Environmental permits in Kwinana in Western Australia. We got a permit in Britain, in Peterborough in Britain, and we got it in 4 months. And Martin, our competition, has been 14 years trying to get another one after Celtic.
What does it take to get a permit, and what does it mean?
You have to be able to prove your technology in the most exemplified and detailed way. And the Brits, believe me, knew how to ask the questions. The West Australians, we had to tell them which questions to answer.
Okay, but they're our friends, really.
They're our friends. Yeah. In a bar, I'd rather have a bunch of Australians in the barroom front with my back to the wall than anyone else.
Okay, so you're gonna love this guy. So with those permits available, they literally say that everything's been qualified. You've even got Deloitte's approvals.
Well, Deloitte have gone over our model. We have 5 engineering reports. We got a permit in the Emirates in Ras Al Khaimah for a plant, but I wasn't satisfied that we had a good garbage supply. We needed a shipping fleet, and I came home and delivered and designed the shipping fleet. So now we can build in the Emirates a plant and supply waste and backload the cement to Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
This made me a thought cross my mind. Tell me something. Are plastic bags okay, Warwick?
They're still the most marvellous thing we've got, but you need to treat them the right way when you've made them. And the first thing you do with them is burn them and get the energy back.
Ah, burning the plastic bags is good. So in other words, we can get our supermarkets...
And stop them from blowing around the neighbourhood and into the ocean.
We regard them straight back to the machine, through your rubbish. It's absolutely beneficial for us if you do that, because it produces for you lower water and lower power rates. It's a no-brainer. So
the plants that I have currently under investigation have HDPE, and I need 20
what's that?
On high-density polyethylene.
Thank you.
Plastic, and that plastic is making, on the average, 20,000 tonnes of high-density polyethylene pipe for our pipelines for water, salt water and fresh water. And so we have in our own market a need for HDPE that resolves New Zealand's problem from the 14 plants that I'm looking at right now.
So each New Zealander, from what we've got from the statistics of recent times, each New Zealander is attributed to having how much waste per person per year?
1.32 tonnes of waste per person per year.
1.32.
And we're approaching 5 million people, so that's a huge, and 200 cubic metres of landfill gas per tonne of garbage put in the landfill, and we have 1.32 billion tonnes of landfill gas going to atmosphere every year in New Zealand.
What's the danger of that?
Well, I can say that the farting of cows has no comparison to the amount of gas made from our landfills. And what are we doing? We want to build another one in the Dome Valley.
Now, okay, coming back to that particular point, this is extremely important. The gases that they're accusing cows of producing don't equate anywhere near what's coming out of the landfill gases. And when we start to look at putting more landfills in, this is just dumb thinking. It's ludicrous. It's people who are making ideas up from information they don't have. That is what this is all about.
I even get to the point where I'm so concerned that we can't get the media or anyone to carry anything about our project to the people of New Zealand. I get the feeling that there is no future for politicians in New Zealand unless they've got a master's degree in science and engineering, because they can't be making decisions that they know nothing about on the strength of bullshit.
In other words, you don't know what you don't know. So let's encourage people to follow this series of film clips, but you can hear by the quality of the information coming out of Warwick's mouth that he's got the information there. This is not crap, this is real stuff. So I'm going to clip the video.
Well, there's
there.
no future in it for me. I'm not interested in money. I'm interested in seeing our country stop the pollution. I'm interested in seeing the oceans full of plastic, stopping the plastic going to the oceans.
Yeah.
Manila itself has got 4,000 tonnes of waste a day going into Smoky Mountain Tip, which goes down the canal into Manila Bay.
What's happening with that?
And that ends up in the Pacific Gyre. So you know, it's not just New Zealand, it's all the countries of the world need to tidy up their act.
Now, we were sending our stuff to China, our rubbish.
China's now using my technology, and they're going to make money for China, not for New Zealand. Mine was made to make money for New Zealand. And to lead the world and to have the moral high ground in doing something that was useful with its waste, that turned waste into a commodity. That's what we've done. We're buying the waste now.
Okay, So China are now accepting no more New Zealand's waste.
They're not buying the waste. It's because they're not doing what I'm doing with the byproduct industry.
Why not?
Because they don't know how. Yet.
So, right, point being, they've stopped taking our rubbish, which means that all the stuff that we break into waste, into recyclables, it all goes together again, back into the tip. That's a lie from the council saying that, hey, this stuff here, we do this for the benefit of recycling. They're not recycling, they're just tipping the damn stuff.
Just separating it and then re-merging it.
Yeah, remerging it.
Because you've got no market for the recyclables, and you've got very few people that are in fact making a valuable contribution to recycling in New Zealand. And I wouldn't want to denigrate them, because there's some of them that are doing a marvellous job. But until they integrate it all in one process and they can handle all New Zealand's waste, they're farting at thunder.
And that means blowing backwards into the wind while thunder is coming this way, which means there is no competition. You're going to lose. Is that right?
Well, that's exactly it.
Or on the other side, we've got about 4 million tyres a year that are expired from cars.
We use them as a modulating fuel when we've got an uncertain amount of wet waste, or maybe we have to dig up Hampton Downs and take the garbage that's lost all its calorific value and burn it in one of our processes.
Explain calorific value now that you've raised the term.
One of our plants handles 19.4 million gigajoules of energy a year.
Now, gigajoules is across the board medium of measuring the amount of energy in something.
Yeah, that's the energy in the product.
So how does tyres help us?
Tyres have 30, from memory, about 30 gigajoules to the tonne.
Which means what?
Which is 3 times that of garbage.
So tyres are valuable for burning.
They're valuable for burning.
What else are they valuable for?
So we buy them. We buy the tyres. We're not exposing ourselves to having to sell the tyres for $10 a tonne, which is absolute nonsense. It's a fuel. And it's a valuable fuel, and it modulates our beds. And our beds...
Your beds, you meaning the base of the fire?
Yeah, it's the grate space, if you like,
like on a fireplace. That's what's on the grate when you're burning stuff. That's called the grate space. So when the tyres are coming and getting burned, on that grate space, what's happening?
They're the upward modulators. We don't want all that heat. We're trying to average the calorific value of the waste on the grate.
Yep.
And we use sewage sludge.
Now, I'll stop you
there. Sewage sludge, 90,000 tonnes a year in Auckland.
90,000 tonnes of sewage sludge are used in the plant to modulate the temperature of the plant, and therefore also gets digested in the heating process. Now, the important point about this is we're now taking...
modulated with the tyres.
The tyres. So you've got tyres burning, sludge coming in from the sewage side. Look at what we're doing, people. We're overcoming a major problem here with this one plant. I'm going to come back and just interject for a moment, because I mentioned this earlier, and I'm going to just turn over
I think there's one other thing that I'd like to address, that just in case there are some people out there that understand basic or elementary science.
Yep.
Is that keeping the average calorific value on the bed as a constant.
Calorific value means what? Keep explaining that to people.
That's the 19.4 million gigajoules of energy per plant.
The energy that's inside
the
material.
Contributing things are hospital waste, which have a higher calorific value than MSW, but less than tyres.
The MSW is municipal. MSW?
Municipal solid waste.
So what you're throwing in the rubbish bins yourselves?
Yeah, and in fact, if you look at, someone came to me the other day and showed me an exercise they were looking at in Waiuku of composting kitchen waste. Composting kitchen waste is effectively accomplished anyhow in the sewage system with garbage disposals in the kitchens of most houses.
What goes down there?
Yeah. So basically, he wanted $9,000 a tonne was his capital cost for doing this little exercise that he looked at.
How much a tonne?
$9,000 a tonne.
Where's it coming from? Who wants to know?
He was applying to this new fund that you've got here in New Zealand, which I have not been privileged to use, and wonder whether I should.
So they're going to pay him $9,000 a ton.
$9,000 a ton was the cost of it.
The government.
Yeah, servicing the capital cost of separating the food waste and making compost out of it. And then if anyone put any broken glass in it, the shards negated the value of the compost, but giving the value of the compost at $99 a ton, there was a net cost to the ratepayer of $8,900 a ton.
So, in other words, $9,000 a ton is what the government is paying for this person to separate the food waste and other bits and pieces, which Warwick mentioned, shards of glass can get broken up into that, as a compost product for the public, sold at how much per ton?
$9,000, sold for $100 a ton if you're lucky.
So $100 return for a $9,000 input. $9,000 from the government for a $100 return from the product being made. Just think about that for a second.
We've also had someone trying to tell us that tyres are worth $10 a tyre to get rid of. And I'll buy them for $10 a tyre.
Now, you hear that? Here we are, they're trying to sell tyres for $10 to get rid of them.
To the ratepayer.
To the ratepayer. To the rate, you're paying for it. But for here, this plant will buy them for $10 a tyre because of the amount of energy they have to produce power and water and other byproducts. That's why this valuable plant has got to be considered by you guys. This has been a really good film clip of all the ones we've done. I'm going to actually use this as a stopper because this is brilliant. And besides, I've got to go home. I want to go over again. There are 100,000 bonds available for this plant to get it up and going. 100,000 bonds at $150 each. What this means is here is that this is US dollars, $150 each. Once the bonds are bought, 100,000 of them, and we get the sovereign guarantee, which is where the government or our council says we will give you all our waste, because it means we're not putting it into landfill anymore. We're not creating poisonous gases, and we're not having leachate coming out of the landfills. They're bad. We will take all that rubbish and put it into the system. There are 16 processes that go on inside the system that produce power, water and byproducts to the value of $265 million a year that comes out of this plant. That goes.
Sorry, Peter. 600 million is the gross turnover.
Sorry, okay, $600 million is the gross turnover that comes out from this thing here in byproducts.
Yeah, that's right.
600 million. Now, all we have to do is to get our city council to take this on board and to put two plants up, one a bit further north in Auckland and one in South Auckland. I say South Auckland because we've got a spot for it. Having done that, the council then makes a huge income from this. It has the benefit of potentially reducing your rates. It means that we're buying your rubbish. You're not paying for it anymore, we're buying your rubbish. And we're starting to make something here which is going to turn the pollution and the environment back to where it was. And as Warwick said earlier in another video clip that you have or haven't heard, I'll just tell you now, the amount of these plants that are required around the world is about 5,000 of them. This will reverse climate change, because a slight acidification of the ocean is killing our primary food product, which goes up to where the whales are that eat krill. Once we start to lose crustaceans and animals that have hard-shelled bodies, what you're doing is you're causing a breakdown in the primary food chain. Not only that, on the top of the ocean is algae, sorry, the plankton. The plankton give off the highest amount of oxygen.
Well, they convert 80% of the world's carbon dioxide into oxygen.
Yes, once a plant takes in water,
produce oxygen by photosynthesis in the ocean of the top 100 feet penetration of sunlight.
Correct. What happens if those plants can no longer survive because of slight change in their environment?
Well, if you affect a bunch of the algae, you have a double banger negative effect. You've got the effect of the increased acidity of the ocean, and you've got the you've also got that effect as well.
So we could start to lose oxygen because there's 70%.
Start to lose oxygen production at the expense of carbon dioxide.
And so therefore we can kill ourselves by continuing this stupid race of landfills and not treating rubbish as it should do.
What logical reason do we have for continuing landfilling? We already know how much landfill gas is made. We know what happens to the leachate. We know what happens when they catch on fire. We know what happens when the tops wash off them and they float and they go out and they strew our South Island beaches with garbage and rubbish. What on earth do you have as a justification for proliferating that sort of nonsense?
And so getting the message, Auckland, in the first instance, let's get behind this. This is purely a video to say that representing this particular product, or this particular concept and this plant to Auckland and to New Zealand and then to the rest of the world is going to benefit New Zealand full stop.
It gives New Zealand the moral high ground of being the first one to resolve the waste problem with something that's sustainable.
And what a buzz. So if we can do that, and then also what's it going to do, if we were to take the GDP of New Zealand as it stands and produce these plants, how many would it take?
Well, right now, the net profit is 220 million per plant. Times 5,000 plants around the world gives you an idea of what you're talking about. And that could be because the technology, well, I defy anyone to do it in less than 30 years, and they better be dedicated like I've been and prepared to work for nothing. And that's what I've done. And I get closer to leaving this world. I'm not interested in money. I am interested in seeing the survival of the planet for my grandchildren and my children.
Let's do this. Oops. And Warwick's sitting down there somewhere. There he is. There we go. What do you mean you're not interested in money?
Well, I'm interested in money to build more plant. And that's why I've set up a structure, and so the royalty income that these notes represent. And so basically, to avail yourself of the notes is the only way you can participate. But what you can do is participate from the point of view that your rates will come down, that your water charges should drop, that your power charges should drop, and all of those things are your reward for getting behind a sustainable technology.
So how much could a person make if they bought one bond?
They bought one bond and you got 5,000 plants, so make 5,000 times $22.50.
How often?
Just do it for me.
Every year?
In a year.
In a year?
Every year of your life, of the lifetime of the plants.
And so New Zealand...
And the plants are built so that they can be rebuilt without shutting down.
Pretty impressive. Hey, Warwick, thank you very much. About time we had a break and maybe had a cup of tea. Warwick Davies, here he is, a Kiwi-born bloke, and I have to tell you this. He remembers the Rat Pack. Why? And people don't know who the Rat Pack are. Rat Pack, of course...
Because I know them. And I ran John Wayne's boat for 2 years, and I really enjoyed it, because I met some very interesting people, Bing Crosby being one of them. And Sammy Davis Jr., I still think, is the funniest man I ever met.
What did he say once? You told me a little story?
He was down sweeping out the lobby of his casino in Las Vegas. Someone came up to him and said, "Aren't you Sammy Davis Jr.?" He said, "Yes, that's me." He said, "I'm the one-eyed janitor that owns the joint."
Ladies and gentlemen, Warwick Davies, extraordinaire. Thanks, Warwick.